Take a look at what happened.
On Saturday 13th of July 2024, 20-year-old Thomas Crooks outsmarted a team of highly trained security agents to get a shot at former President Donald Trump. Everyone knows that Trump hates drug dealers and cartel leaders, but they were almost celebrating his death at the rally until Crooks failed. Why were the Mexicans blamed for the assassination attempt on Saturday? How was Thomas Crooks able to evade the police and Secret Service at the checkpoint? What is the real reason why Crooks wanted Trump dead? Find out in this video how the cartels really trained Trump's shooter, Donald Trump, and cartels. The first time Donald Trump secretly tried to use shooting missiles to take out Mexican drug labs was in 2020, but with his recent campaigning, it is suspected that Trump might have unknowingly placed a bounty on his own head. The former president recently escaped a careful assassination scheme with only ruffled clothes and a bleeding ear. If Trump had not turned to read from the big screen the very second the bullet was fired, analysis revealed that the outcome would have been very fatal. The bullet would have passed through his right brain and exited at the other side of his head, but he survived, and it is suspected that a few people are not very happy about it. Trump has always had his problems with cartel leaders. For years now, he has refused to be reasoned with on his stance of using physical force to wipe out as many of them as he can, and many people believe that this is the real reason why he was attacked. In 2015, one of the most powerful drug traffickers, El Chapo, escaped from a maximum security prison for the second time, and he sent out a scary message to Trump that he was going to kill him. The reason was that the president was accusing Mexican immigrants of being criminals and rapists. 2 years later, Trump became president, and the first thing he did was to arrest the Mexican drug lord and sentence him to eternal suffering in a cold, hard federal prison cell.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
It was almost impossible for Trump not to attract enemies with this type of lifestyle, and among the many speculations about the Pemnislasnia shooting, it is believed that a highly trained cartel assassin was sent after Trump, and the president was very lucky to have escaped with just a bullet grazing on his right ear. Shooter outsmarts Secret Service. The name of the suspected shooter is Thomas Matthew Crooks, and to the outside world, he was just a regular 20-year-old who worked as a dietary aide in a local nursing home. Crook was shot dead by the counter-sniper team a few seconds after he fired his first shots, and law enforcement has been trying to learn as much as they can of him and the motive of his attack. Unlike many cartel members, Thomas here has a squeaky clean criminal record, and according to the nursing home, he passed all background checks and performed his job without concern. But that was not all there was to him. Crooks also had an unhealthy obsession with all things firearms and mass shooters. Even as a high school student, he reportedly even tried to join the school rifle team, but he was turned down because he had poor aim. Then, Thomas registered in a local shooting club, and there he practiced every day until he was a better shooter. It was also there that he bought the bullets he would use to try to assassinate the former president. Crooks lived in an old house not too far from where Trump had his Butler rally, and if anything, he knew the farm area well. Days before the shooting, he went to his workplace and asked for a free day on Saturday. After that was granted, he packed his bags and fled to a secret location. No one saw him again until the moment when the former president was preparing to climb the stage for his speech. Cops noticed something weird about a strange guy who was pacing around on the farm, and according to them, they called it in. Things got even more intense when metal detectors picked a strange device on Crook's body. It was a rangefinder, and it's very much like binoculars. You can use it to get the digital distance of objects far and near. Officers and Secret Service agents believed that he brought the rangefinder to observe the speaker and the rally. Still, they let him be while monitoring him from a distance, but the long leash failed as even more people trooped into the area. Thomas used the crowd to deceive the cops, and then he got busy with setting up his device for the mission. He escaped the checkpoint and went around the perimeter of the building until he was able to find the best spot to mount his AR-15 style rifle. This was only 400 feet away from Trump's podium, just enough to deliver the kind of fatal blow he wanted. The rally happened towards the end of the day, which meant that a lot of stores and offices had closed, so no one saw Crooks surveying and entering the area. Local police officers even confessed that they had their station point in the same building, but somehow Thomas was able to evade all of them. He was only seen as he tried to make his way to the roof with his heavy gun.
Look, they're all pointing.
The Atlantic, maybe the Pacific.
Yeah, someone's on top of the roof. Look. There he is right there. Right there, you see him? He's laying down. You see him?
Yeah, he's laying down.
And son, I'm here with you fighting the cartel to get us.
This is a video that made rounds on the internet, and it was captured by a man who attended the Butler rally. As you can see, there was a lot of commotion happening there, but the police refused to do anything serious until the president was almost killed. According to authorities, after they received reports that there was a man stationed on a roof with a deadly gun, they decided to verify before they engaged him. So, 2 police officers went through the AGR building, and they knew that something was wrong when they saw a ladder placed against a wall. It looked too short for the roof, but one of the officers tried to climb with help from his colleague, and that was when he was met with Crook's gun pointing directly to his face. To avoid being shot, he fell back and injured his ankle. But that was also when Thomas squeezed out the 8 bullets that sent the entire place into a wide rage. One of the bullets went through the president's right ear. Another killed 50-year-old engineer Corey Comparatore. According to his family, he died while shielding his wife and daughters from the gunfire. Then, 2 other audience members were shot, and last we heard, they were still in a critical state. 15 seconds later, a counter-sniper fired 2 fatal shots at Thomas Crooks, and that was the end of the road for him. After the ugly incident, everyone has been waiting for the Secret Service agency to come up with a logical explanation of how a 20-year-old was able to outsmart dozens of trained professionals. Lots of information is flying around now, but very many Americans are refusing to believe that Thomas Crooks was able to pull this off all by himself. 2 things offer the most probable explanations of how Crooks was able to make law enforcement agents look this stupid. The first is that he was highly trained by enemies of the government, and the second is that he had help from someone on the inside. A handful of Americans argue that it was both. While Crooks did a few things that could have easily blown his cover, his planning, organization, and positioning at the roof suggested that he might have done something like this before. From investigations that followed after the shooting, Thomas chose a delicate spot on the roof that made it really difficult for the snipers at the north to see him. There were trees near the building that would block their view, but after he fired his shots, the counter-sniper had to make an almost 360-degree turn to get a clear view of him. It is still a mystery how Thomas was also able to deceive the officers at the checkpoint and how he was able to mount a roof in a building filled with cops. Only experienced killers could pull off moves like that, and Crooks had a few role models. Found in his phone was a picture of the infamous mass shooter, Ethan Crumbley. Ethan, like Thomas, looked like an everyday teenager until he did something completely unbelievable. On the 30th of November 2021, 15-year-old Ethan Crumbley was caught on camera entering one of the bathrooms in Oxford High School. When he came out, he was armed with a semi-automatic handgun, and with it, he almost drowned the entire school with blood. With no provocation whatsoever, Crumbley started firing into the hallway as hundreds of students passed through. His first victim was 14-year-old Hannah St. Juliana, who he shot in the face. Ethan continued firing into the halls while making breaks between classrooms to ensure that no one made it out alive. Fortunately, the staff were able to act quickly, and Crumbley was unable to enter any other classroom. In the shooting that lasted for about 5 minutes, this 15-year-old killed 3 students, leaving 8 other people, including a teacher, with critical injuries. Ethan Crumbley was charged as an adult for 24 crimes, including murder and terrorism, and in December 2023, he was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. So, officers at the scene of the Saturday shooting connected a few dots when they saw Ethan Crumbley's photos on Crook's phone. Things got even more dramatic as they interrogated a few of his former classmates.
He was bullied almost every day. I mean, he would sit alone at lunch. I mean, he was just an outcast, and you know how kids are nowadays, so they're gonna see someone like that and they're gonna target him because they think it's funny or whatever. So it's the best way I can describe it. And it's honestly kind of sad. Like, I don't want to say this is what provoked it, but you never know.
Ethan and Thomas just had too much in common. They struggled to fit in, and also like Crumbley, Crooks would also plan a mass shooting operation in his high school. Fortunately, he never had enough boldness to pull it off. According to a former classmate, one time Thomas dropped an ominous message in the school group chat, warning everyone not to come to school because he had bombs planted in the bathrooms and cafeteria. Dozens of students stayed home, and it continued until school authorities stepped in to dispel the rumors. Nobody believed that the brilliant, quiet kid was the one who pulled off such an expensive prank. Thomas Crooks was a really bright kid who was born and raised in Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. He excelled in his academics, and just in 2022, he graduated with high honors and won a $500 STAR award from the National Math and Science Initiative. Crooks' only problem with school was that he was always forced to deal with the much bigger kids who wouldn't stop picking on him. Former classmates say that he was constantly taunted for reasons like body odor, wearing hunting outfits, and surgical masks to school. Also found in Thomas Crooks' phone were several other pictures of Donald Trump, President Joe Biden, FBI Director Chris Thomas Ray, and a member of the British royal family. This, and fresh links to porn websites. Interestingly, his father had tried to report him to the cops just a day before he tried to kill the president. According to the police reports, Crooks's father called in to complain about his whereabouts, and they were actively working on his case before he was found dead on the rooftop. Crooks' car was also found in a not too far location from the Butler farm, and in it were found several explosives and detailed instructions on bomb making. Thomas also had a grey detonator with him on the roof, and authorities believe that he planned to blow up the place after he must have killed Trump. In the days that followed the shooting, the Secret Service stormed Thomas Crooks' house and searched his bedroom, and they found more than a dozen guns. They confiscated the guns, his laptops, and a number of other hard drives. Thomas's parents were shocked that their son had all of these going on, and he never made mention of any of it. But they still refused to believe that he worked with the cartels. Even if Crooks was a trained shooter, many Americans still argue that he had help from someone who worked in the president's security. Only that can explain how he was able to know the limitations of the agency to capitalize on them. Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheatle quickly brushed off all rumors of a conspiracy theory, and as it stands now, there's no solid evidence that law enforcement participated in the assassination attempt. According to her, there were two reasons why they didn't have any sniper positioned on a roof that was 400 feet away from Donald Trump. The first was that they had very thin manpower, and the second was the slope of the roof. Cheatle said that the slope of the roof was dangerous, so it would be difficult to have a sniper set up on it. This was heavily criticized by GOP rep Carlos Jimenez, who saw it as an excuse for her incompetence. He said, "I'm 70 years old. There's nothing unsafe about that roof. There are things here that are obvious failures of the Secret Service." Kimberly then shifted the blame to the local Butler Police Department, claiming that the Secret Service had them in charge of the location that Crooks invaded. But Butler County District Attorney Richard Goldinger already told NBC that he deployed 4 quick response teams and 4 sniper teams for the president's teams. He then went further to reveal that in their plans, the Secret Service was supposed to be in charge of the areas outside the Butler Farm Show. It was becoming an endless blame game, and everyone expected the director to resign after this terrible mistake, but she has continued to be stubborn about it. According to her, she has apologized to Donald Trump, and she is going to do all she can to uncover everything about Thomas Crooks and what his true motives were. A lot of experts believe that this would be incredibly difficult, if not impossible, as Crooks showed no obvious similarities with the many other infamous mass shooters. The first was that he had a clean history of mental illnesses, and it is still not very clear if he did it for fame or influence. Anyway, Director Kimberly kept asking for more time for a thorough investigation, but her pleas fell on deaf ears. Republican Rep Taylor Greene did not hesitate to take it out on the director. She said, "That means that you are a complete failure as the director of the Secret Service, that people under your command don't perceive a man laying on a roof with a direct line to the president with a gun. They don't perceive that to be a threat, yet the people in the crowd do. How is that possible?" In the end, Kimberly Cheatle was faced with just 2 options: take responsibility or step down, and from the looks of it, it looks like the director is choosing the hard way out. Another interesting view that just consolidates the fact that Thomas Crooks was trained and sent by the cartels is the many rumors of Biden's affiliations with drug leaders, Biden's administration and cartels. It's no news that Biden and Trump share a very complicated relationship, but the only mystery now is the depth of the bad blood. Americans still don't know if it is enough to ask for the head of the other candidate. Biden and Trump also react very differently to issues relating to cartels and drug pins. While Trump is insistent on a tighter border policy that would fight against illegal immigration, Biden welcomes individuals and families who are fleeing prosecution with open arms. While this looks very noble on paper, it has also led to an all-time high in drug trafficking activities in the United States. Matter of fact, the House of Budget Committee reported that a few cartels reap profits as high as $30 million a day and nearly $1 billion a month. So, obviously these drug pins would all raise their hands in votes for Biden, but just when Trump looked like he was getting the upper hand in the game, he was almost assassinated, and his shooter was killed before he gave out all the important details. A lot of people find this very fishy, and even Trump suspected it with the Secret Service agents. According to the former president, his agents refused to update him after they found a suspicious man roaming around on the roof. Nobody mentioned it. Nobody said there was a problem. I would have waited for 15. They could have said, let's wait for 15 minutes, 20 minutes. 5 minutes, something, Trump told Fox News. I think that was a mistake. How did somebody get on that roof? And why wasn't he reported? Also, for many years now, the Secret Service has kept denying all requests for additional security for Donald Trump. There was just a released statement that claimed that there were modifications done to ensure the security of the protectee. Days before Saturday's shooting, Trump's personal bodyguards also requested extra metal detectors and manpower, but the Secret Service turned them down. This all just confirms that someone or some people in the higher-ups want Donald Trump dead, and Thomas Crooks was sent to have this done that Saturday. When he failed, As part of the evidence cleanup, they were forced to eliminate him, and this was not even their first attempt. In 2022, Trump accused Biden of authorizing his assassination during the search of his Mar-a-Lago resort. Following claims that the former president stole some documents from the White House during his time, Biden ordered the FBI to raid his resort. Trump released shocking statements that he was convinced that Biden was locked and loaded ready to take him out. He went further to post on his Truth platform that the president encouraged the FBI to use deadly and lethal force in their search of the property for classified documents. Biden denied all allegations, and FBI agents also commented that Trump was trying to cause violence and get people killed. They all claimed that there was no need to use violence as everyone was very cooperative. Biden came to everyone's mind after Trump's assassination attempt because, in a debate before the shooting, he ended his argument by saying, "It's time to put Trump in a bullseye." Of course, the president pleaded not guilty to these charges. He claimed that he was misquoted, urging Americans to take their focus away from the debate and toward Trump. Biden would then say that he was sincerely grateful that Trump was not killed on Saturday. On Sunday, he ordered an independent review of the events of the rally. "There's no place in America for this kind of violence," the president said. "It's sick. It's sick. That's one of the reasons why we have to unite this country. You cannot allow this to be happening. We cannot be like this. We cannot condone this." Still, many Americans are not buying to the president's innocent cries, and all the people want at this time is for someone to take responsibility for what happened at the Butler farm. Popular American conspiracy theorist Alex Jones is pushing claims that President Joe Biden might just be the next person on the hit list. According to him, Saturday's shooting was a deep state assassination attempt and a failed coup. Alex concluded his video with warnings that the deep state will try again to kill Trump. "We are in the middle of a deep state hot coup," he said. Many reports after the shooting have been pushing the narrative that President Joe Biden was killed just hours after the rally's shooting. These speculations went even more wild with tweets from boxing star Ryan Garcia. However, Biden has not been confirmed dead. Popular blogs said that he is currently recovering from COVID-19 and so has been fulfilling his duties remotely while isolating. The 81-year-old president had to appoint Vice President Kamala Harris as his successor after he tested positive for the virus on July 17, 2024. There have been ongoing debates arguing the authenticity of Saturday's shooting. Pictures like this, with Secret Service agents smiling as they guided Trump to safety, have been making rounds on the internet, and Americans refuse to be deceived. Many people are insisting that it was all a publicity stunt to boost Trump's presidential campaign, and the iconic fist pump just consolidates that. 8 shots and no one else hit. Common, one Telegram user posted. Among the recent updates from law enforcement on this case was when Thomas Crooks's ladder and bag were discovered by a neighbor in a location near the Butler farm. The man claimed that the bag had been there for a few days, and he waited until no one came for it before he called the cops. Trump has garnered a lot of enemies because of who he is and what he does, so it is a little difficult to say for sure who is responsible for this. As it stands now, Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheatle seems to be the only person taking all the heat, as many Americans are asking for her arrest and prosecution. She was finally forced to accept that the Trump assassination attempt was the most significant operational failure of the FBI in decades.
How did he fly a drone over the area, period? Any part of the area?
Again, I would have to go back and check the timeline of when that took place and when the event...
Why didn't you bring the timeline with you today to answer our questions?
I don't have all of the answers on the timelines based on the criminal investigation.
Were you not prepared today to answer our questions?
I am prepared to answer the questions based on the information and wanted to be able to provide.
Do you have a timeline at all from any of the day?
I have a timeline that does not have specifics.
That's shocking. That is absolutely unacceptable. That means you are a failure at your job.
Kimberly Cheatle bowed her head in shame after the hearing session on Monday, but nothing has still been heard from her so far either about the shooting or her resignation. Everyone knows that Trump has pissed off a lot of drug dealers and cartel leaders, and it is not very likely that Thomas Crooks could have pulled this off all by himself. It's hard to say where they two meet, but the FBI and Secret Service have promised more hands and eyes on this. So, we have our hands crossed as we hope for the best, while still expecting the worst in the wake of the truth. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.